Good evening, Ghana, and welcome to the Election Eve special, right here on your election headquarters, as we stand on the precipice of a pivotal moment in the history of the NPP. This is brought to you by Petrosol, your clean fuel in full quantity. Always a delightful experience, and the new force, a new nation. Tonight, the vibrant heart of the new patriotic party pulsates with anticipation as four candidates prepare to engage in a political battle for the honor of leading the party into the 2024 general elections. Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia will come up against the formidable MP for Asin Central, Kennedy Ejipon, former Agric Minister Dr. Wuse Friakoto, and the steadfast Francis Adainimo will also have their say when the final vote is cast by close of day tomorrow. Tonight, we are live at the party headquarters where my colleague James Aveji is standing by. We are also live in the NPP stronghold, the Ashanti regional capital, Kumasi, where, as you see on your screens, Nana Boakye Yadom and Nana Yaw are also standing by for us tonight. We will feel the pulse of the NPP from these two locations shortly. But first, I introduce you to the men locking horns to decide who leads the NPP. And that indeed are the men vying to lead the NPP. And they will be across the country. Many of them will be voting in one place, the party's headquarters here in the Greater Accra region. And that's where we find James Aveji, who is standing by for us. You can see him on your screens there, ready to tell us what's happening there the night before the votes begin. Also, the party's stronghold is a place the party will always go for solace. When they need help, they go to the Ashanti region, because when they win there, and they win massively, they win the national elections. And that's where we find tonight my colleagues Nana Boakye Yadom and Nana Yaw, who are standing by for us tonight with the very latest from the ground. Guess who else is joining me right now on screen? I'm joined by the deputy head of the political desk, Winston Anwa, and who else? Head of research here at Joy 99.7 FM and on the Joy News channel on the multi-TV, Raymond Aqua, who is sitting and waiting. I'm going to ask him a pretty interesting question pretty shortly, and I'll lift a pretty heavy substance and show you, and then ask him a question about that. We'll be joined later by the Deputy General Secretary of the NPP, Winston. Big day for the NPP. What will this mean? How significant is this for the Dankwa, Buzia, Dombo tradition?
Well, Evans, you see, the NPP has made this a very critical election for them, and I'll tell you why. Because the NPP seems to be the only political party under the Fourth Republic which has been in power and has had to conduct a major election while in power to elect its flag bearer. You know, the NDC in 2000, you know what happened at Tamils by consensus. You know, in 2012, by 2016, when the NDC was going into the next election, John Dramani Mahama, sitting president, he was seeking re-election. He was unsuccessful. The NPP made this a very crucial election when they started in 2021 with Break the Eight. Automatically, the NPP told everybody, we know we have an 8-year cycle in Ghana, but we intend to be the only party under the Fourth Republic to go beyond the 8. And once you say that, you put a lot of pressure on yourself. Once you say that, we begin to ask the critical question, who is that person who's going to be able to break the 8 for you? And that's why right from the beginning in 2021, you saw Dr. Bawumia, you saw Alan Tremanting. At the time, it was seen to be a 2-horse race between Dr. Bawumia and Alan Tremanting before Kennedy Ejipon came in, and then Alan Tremanting leaves. Now, left with Kennedy Ejipon, Dr. Bawumia, Wuse Friakoto, not really in this race, so I wouldn't focus much on him. I'm not going to be focusing much on Adainimo at all, because I think that he's going to place a distant fourth in this election. But this is the point. Because the NPP also had indicated in the build-up to all of this, particularly because of the establishment candidate, and I know they would deny it, because the establishment is somehow bought into the NDC propaganda about the NPP, it remains to be seen tomorrow whether the NPP for the first time would elect a candidate from Northern Ghana. The NPP in 2009, and as you lift Raymond's book, you're going to
I will lift the book.
The NPP initially, right before even the establishment of the Fourth Republic, had been Buzia Dankwa Club. Never did you hear of Dombo, even though the Northern People's Party and the NLM and every party that came together to form the UP at the time had SD Dombo leading the Northern People's Party. So the NPP itself, with all of its bigwigs, buying into the NDC propaganda, saying this is the time for the NPP to present a non-akan. Ordinarily, I won't do, politics based on where somebody comes from.
But
because the NPP itself says this is the reason we want to go for this person. Despite all the qualities, one of the most important quality is where he comes from. It is a big day, and you've heard Kenneth Japong saying, "Are we going to have all the people from a lot of the candidates from one part of the country?" This election is very critical.
And that is what it will mean, possibly, for the Dankwa Buzia Dombo tradition. Let me lift the weight. That is the weight. 3 heavy books. One is K.A. Buzia, a symbol of democracy, exploration of his life and works. 1 down, 2 to go. This is Elections in Ghana, Alex Treche Duku Frimpong. And by the way, this was part of our reading list for the 2020 election.
Yeah.
Anybody remember this?
Yeah, I remember that.
Part of our reading list. And you wonder how we bring this to you. We have a reading list. I'm disclosing too much, am I?
You are.
There. 3rd one. This is the Dankwa Buzia tradition in politics of Ghana, the origins, mission, and achievement of the new patriotic party. And this is the Kantinka Donko Forward. By the way, there's one man who brought all this into the studio. We don't bring it because, we can't read it all before a show. But he did. Raymond Akwa, you did so. Why?
Because these are perhaps the writings, and most of them are actually seen to be people who have understood Ghanaian politics for a very long time. And it tracks back to the history of the party, brings it to the more recent developments in there. Winston was talking about the more recent addition in 2009 of the Dombo faction, making it somewhat complete. As far back as 2011 and 2012, even distinguished writers within the political science space, like H.B. Martinson, were still writing books without the inclusion of the Dombo phenomenon. A more recent development has been, and one of the authors, I'll bring you that book tomorrow, Anna Nieje, the one who wrote on K.A. Buzia, has also written S.D. Dombo, a biography of an iconic Ghanaian statesman. Why is this important? It's important because the party, the soul of the NPP, is still being determined one way or the other. With the Chematin faction almost moving out or very quiet in this, there is a rush, a massive fight for the soul of the party. Will that be determined tonight? Will Dombo be established major role in any of the developments of the NPP? Or it will get back to the same Dankwa Buzia distractions that have been happening over the period? Will the NPP, as Winston said, fall for the accusations up until recently, they are dismissed with data, they are dismissed with voting trends, they are dismissed with every single argument possible in the Republic of Ghana. But will they fall for it? Or they will stand their ground and still say that we remain with the tradition? In any case, these books put into proper perspective, sometimes disagreeing with the very thinking that many people have had about the history of the NPP. So it will be interesting. It will be exciting.
It will be exciting.
I tag it as the fight for the soul of the NPP, not only for 2024, but for the future of the NPP going forward.
Absolutely.
If we had time, I would have done something. But I just would say this, talking about the fight for the soul of the NPP, it's the only reason Uchefi Yakoto is in this race.
Yeah.
Okay, and we'll explain that. There is a lot of analysis to do tonight. We are live on Joy 99.7 FM. We are live here on the Joy News channel. We are live across our social media pages, YouTube, Facebook. We are also on Twitter. That's where you catch us, and don't miss it. This is your election headquarters, the Election Eve special. It's brought to you by Petrosol and also by the new Force. Have you seen the billboards? You're wondering what that is? Well, it will be unveiled pretty shortly. Let me take you to the party's headquarters, where James Aveji is standing by for us. James, talk to me. This is the night before the big day. What's happening there?
Evans, not so much is happening here, but the quietness we are experiencing at the party headquarters this evening is believed to be an anticipation for a grand day tomorrow, a day that will be busy on the street here with a lot of activities. I mean, in the buzzing activities of tomorrow, we know that a lot of the streets surrounding the NPP headquarters here will be restricted to movement, because the anticipation is that the president himself, together with the vice president, should be casting their vote here. They are among some 463 persons expected to cast their vote at the party headquarters here in Accra. And those other persons involve the party's patrons, the National Council of Elders, ministers, as well as deputy ministers, former appointees of the party, are all expected to be part of those 463 persons expected to vote here at the party headquarters. But Evans, if you see at the background behind me, we still have the posters of the four candidates going into the elections. That of the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, the former Agric Minister, Dr. Afriye Akoto, and Engineer Francis Adainimo, together with the MP for Asin Central, Kennedy Ohinye-Jepong, are all splashed on the walls here at the party headquarters. What we do not know is whether all of these posters, as well as the banners we see here, will be taken off the walls between the period of the voting from 7 a.m. till the voting is done, in accordance with the EC's regulation of no form of campaign happening at the voting centers. That we cannot confirm. But what we also know is that the party headquarters here would also be serving as the coalition center for the New Patriotic Party, what they call the Situation Room, where every single vote will be trickling in until the last person amongst the over 204,000 delegates across the country cast their last vote, where the party will be monitoring what happens across the 275 and the 16 regional offices or voting centers across the entire country. And so that is what will be happening here. And so the quietness of this evening, I can tell you, is just in preparation and anticipation of a buzzing street here tomorrow. And so that is what the street looks like, the party headquarters look like. Not a lot of human activity, but for the past 1 hour that we have pitched camp here, we have seen quite a number of cars moving in and out of the party headquarters. All of those in anticipation, no mounting of voting areas, no barricading, and all of that, no security checkpoint here on the street here. But all of that, in the early hours of tomorrow by 7 a.m., we expect should be happening. And so what we cannot also confirm, we know that Dr. Afriye Akoto is part of the patrons of the party. And so we do not know whether he would also be coming to vote here. But after all of the coalition is done by the party at the headquarters here, we know all of that will be transitioned to the forecourt of the Ohinija Sports Stadium, where after the EC have declared the final or the substantive result of the election, the party will be doing an official declaration of the winner of the elections at the forecourt of the Ohinija Sports Stadium. But as far as the heart of the party is concerned, it will be beaten here at the headquarters tomorrow. And so, Evans, it is quiet here, but not because no action will be happening, but in preparation for tomorrow's big day to elect one candidate to mount the back of the elephant and ride them into election 2024 to either break the eight or give way for another party to take the realms of affairs of the country, Evans.
And that's what we call the calm before the storm. I want to quickly go to the Ashanti region, the party stronghold, where Nana Aljuma is joining us right now, together with my colleague, and then Abuachi Yadom. And listen, gentlemen, this is a stronghold of the party. And by the way, we will be analyzing a lot right now, and we'll start with the cloud that was left behind by Alan Chemanting. And by the way, that is his own home region. And something very interesting has been happening in the last 24 hours. He chose to do a rally, an event in the Ashanti region, his own home region, a day to the primary, a primary he was part of until recently. So let's get there. Let's get a sense of what the people that in the stronghold of the party are saying. The two Nanas, Nanaya Jima and Nanaya Wachiyadom, talk to us. Let me get a sense. Let's feel the pulse in the NPP stronghold.
Well, Evans, the Ashanti region is jamming up towards the big day, November 4th, tomorrow, where the New Patriotic Party will be going to polls to elect a flag bearer for the party ahead of the crucial 2024 general election. The Ashanti region is indeed jamming up towards this particular election tomorrow. So I can tell you as a matter of fact that the region is prepared. Close to 35,000 delegates will be participating in tomorrow's elections across all 47 constituencies. Although there are challenges in some constituencies like Mampong and Asopa, the Ashanti region says it is ready for the very big day, which is tomorrow. Details and information we've picked on the ground already is that agents of some candidates are already touching base with these delegates who will be participating in tomorrow's election. That's according to a report filed by my colleague Nanaya Ojima earlier. But then he's joining me here. He went to visit the EC boss Banobio. He has details as to what will be happening tomorrow. Matters of security, when the election is starting and when it is going to end. So Nana, tell us, when you met the EC boss, Mr. Banobio, what came out of the meeting earlier today?
So before I got access to him, I had to wait for a while because there were some executives of the Asokwa NPP within his office, and their mission there was simple. According to them, the album that they had received at the time was not complete. It had some anomalies in the album. Some of the delegates were unable to find their names within the album. So they had come to the EC's office to get that rectified. They actually proposed that a supplementary budget be submitted to the EC to augment what they already had in their possession. Unfortunately, according to the EC, they only take the album from the NPP. That's the election committee of the NPP. So if there is a challenge with the album that they had received at the time, the only people that could rectify that album was the elections committee of the NPP. So they were expecting, or they directed their squad NPP to send their petition to the national headquarters, to the election committee. If they get that rectified, they can revise the album and send it to the EC's office in Accra, and later the Kumasi office or the Ashanti region office will receive a signal, and if possible they will adopt the new register that will be presented. So after that I got access to him, and we had deliberation on a number of things that is happening within the region. As at the time that I visited him, almost all of the districts within the Ashanti region had taken delivery of the ballot materials. The materials had already been dispatched with police escort to the various districts within the Ashanti region, and these ballot materials were supposed to be kept in the police stations, the district police stations within these areas. And with the police supervision, tomorrow morning the Electoral Commission officers will go to these police offices and bring these materials out for the election. According to him, all the staff of the EC are poised and they are ready for the big day tomorrow for the NPP. Concerning security, as at the time I went to the EC's office, there were a number of policemen there. I found the police water cannon, one of them located within the premises of the Electoral Commission in the Ashanti region, and I could count a number of policemen all there stationed there, armed and ready to ensure that whatever happened within the election goes on peacefully. Already the Ashanti Region Security Council had issued some directives to the public, and they're expecting everybody to go according to these directives that they had issued out.
All right, so Evans, we must say that although we are expecting over close to 35,000 delegates to participate in tomorrow's electoral process for the New Patriotic Party, Mampong constituency would not have a full number of delegates participating in that electoral process tomorrow in the Mampong constituency, because during the voting for polling station executive or officers, the electoral process was being challenged by some members, and so tomorrow we'll just have a few number of people participating in the electoral process at Mampong. They will be voting at the Basofo Center, where the New Patriotic Party constituency in Mampong will be participating in the election. I mean, delegates will be participating in the election. But then we will not have a full number because the electoral process to elect polling station officers was being challenged earlier. Over 34,000 will be participating in this electoral process. Francis Adeyemo from the Ashanti region, and then also Afriye Akoto from the Ashanti region. Nana Yaojima followed Afriye Akoto and then Francis Adeyemo. So Nana, what can you tell us about their campaigns and then also going into tomorrow, what their chances are?
So let's start with Dr. Afriye Akoto. He used to be the member of parliament for Kwadaso constituency in the Ashanti region, and it's one of the constituencies that the NPP holds within the region. Under his tenure, according to him, he did a number of things for the Kwadaso constituency, and because of the achievements within the period as MP, he believes that Kwadaso should form his base for this election. He believes that he stands the chance of sweeping a number of votes within the Kwadaso constituency. Also, he touts his achievement as a Greek minister, and since the Ashanti region is also one of the food baskets of the country, he believes that the achievements within the rural areas where the food or where the farmers are will also propel a lot of these farmers or sway a lot of these votes within these districts to his side. So he believes that he stands a chance of sweeping a lot of the votes within the Ashanti region, especially coming from the back of his father's role in the formation of the New Patriotic Party and his father's role in the Ashanti traditional system. His father used to be one of the linguists and a very renowned one for the Asante Hene, and he believes that the role that he played in the formation of the NPP in the Ashanti region and also in the traditional setting should play to his advantage. So all these things come into play when it comes to the votes that Dr. Afriye Akoto is expecting to sweep within the Ashanti region. Also, Mr. The former member of parliament for the Mampong constituency, Mr. Adeyemo, believes that the Mampong area, though he's not getting a number of the Mampong area will not represent a full album because of the challenges that Nana Boakye spoke about earlier. He believes that the few polling station executives that will be voting in this election will also vote towards his direction. He's also known within the Ashanti region because he lived part of his life in the Ashanti region, and he has played a role in the NPP within the Ashanti region. So he believes that the Ashanti region should also play to his advantage. He also speaks about some ties he has with the northern regions because he's schooled within the northern regions, and because of that, he will be able to win some of the votes from the northern region as well. So he believes that the Ashanti and northern regions should be his base or his strongholds within the election. Mind you, this is not the first time he is contesting in such an election. Nana Boakye also did some work on Mr. Kennedy Ejapon, especially after the showdown walk, which gingered a number of the party supporters to follow his campaign.
All right, so yes, I did follow Kennedy Ejapon and also Dr. Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia. Although we have two candidates having their roots towards the Ashanti region, Francis Adeyemo and then also Afriye Akoto, Dr. Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia has the matchup, the big space, especially those who voted during the special delegates, the members of parliament, constituency executive chairman and secretaries. He has all of them joining him. So he believes that with all these people and then the numbers they have down there, it is going to be a very beautiful day for him come November 4th, which is tomorrow. Kennedy Ejapon also had a showdown walk in the Ashanti region with the numbers he pulled throughout the region. He also believes that tomorrow is going to be a very big day for him. So Evans, the Ashanti region, as I said earlier, is jamming up towards the election to elect a new flag bearer for the Elephant Party, the New Patriotic Party. Yesterday, the former Trades Minister, Alan Kojo-Kyerematen, also held his volunteer orientation here in the Ashanti region, pulled some numbers. We do not know what that will play in tomorrow's election, but then definitely we have to analyze that the Ashanti region is poised for tomorrow's election, and then whatever we have to wait for would be after tomorrow. Over to you, Evans.
Thank you very much, Nana Boakye Yadom. Thank you very much, Nana Yaljima there. And we're going to go into some of the things they've talked about, the Alan Kyerematen effect. Let's quickly look at the big number. The big number here is 204,144. That's the delegate number. They'll be voting tomorrow. And it's important because when you do a breakdown, Winston, you begin to see that the two regions with the most delegates. You see here, I'm going to circle that for you, 39,134. That is the region, Greater Accra. Then you go to the Ashanti region. That's where we just came from. Yeah. You have 35,690. In other words, if you really want to win this, you really want to sweep these two regions.
Exactly, Evans. I mean, if you're able to sweep a lot of the votes in the Ashanti region, get more votes in the Greater Accra, maybe add Eastern region, end of story. Yeah. You're going.
And for Bawumia, he obviously is looking at taking home, sweeping really the 5 regions of the north.
Yes.
You have the northern region, you have the upper east region, you have the upper west, you have the northeast, and then you have Savannah. If you put the votes there together, you are just around 35,000.
Exactly.
So it's not enough.
That's where the problem is. So if you're a Dr. Bawumia, you're looking at these and saying, yes, I need these numbers, but most importantly, I need to be winning in the big constituencies. And here when I say big constituencies, because we're looking at the regions, I say the big constituencies, Greater Accra 39,000, Ashanti region 35,000. This is my thinking, Evans, and I know we're going to get into the detail, but this is my thinking. Because there's the feeling that the running mate, if Bawumia wins, most likely will come from the Ashanti region, you would have the members of the NPP, particularly the members of parliament and ministers within the Ashanti region, trying to outdo one another to make a case that, look, I gave you 90%, I gave you 80%, I gave you 95%, and I gave you 70% or whatever. So that's where the Ashanti region comes in. When we get to the Alan Kyerematen factor, we probably will look at that also, because you have Kenny Japan, who's also closely associated with the region, but most importantly, Dr. Usui Yakoto, whose father, like Nana Boakye and Nana Yaljima were talking about, was Utumfo's chief linguist. He actually believes that the NPP today has neglected his father. Will the NPP in the Ashanti region, having held the Bafo Seakoto factor, delivered by Speaker Michael Quay, would the NPP in the Ashanti region reward Bafo Seakoto by voting for us?
And by the way, when we come to him, you notice that his votes, he got the most votes in the Super Delegates Conference. He got the most votes in the Ashanti region. Raymond, you're reading these numbers in terms of the delegate distribution. What are you reading into that?
So let's get it straight. I mean, one of the things that comes, even the 200,000, this is about 3% of the 6.7 million that will be voting in the main election or voted for the NPP in the last election. So a representation of that, not even up to 10% of that. If you break it further down, we're looking at a comparison with the super delegates, and that was less than 1,000, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, so that's just 1% of the super
of
delegates.
This number, of this...
Yes. So
it's 0.5%.
Is 0.5%, less than 1%. Now, that's is the reason why many first and foremost will say this is actually the playground. So that's why you cannot dismiss people outright. You cannot say that merely because I got less than 20% in the super delegates election, I'm actually going to repeat that. There's a lot of dynamics at play in this election. Key, you were mentioning the regions that were going to lead up there. If you keenly follow the polls that are actually being put out prior to the election, Global Info Analytics, for example, you get the impression that they are indicating that whilst the vice president is still very strong in the northern part of the country, if you track only Global Info Analytics ranges, the vice president's popularity appears not to be moving up as fast as Canada Japan in the southern part of the country. But the numbers are in the southern part of the country. In fact, if you track it properly, by the time you get to voter, you have actually crossed more than 60% of the votes
Yeah.
If you are distributing it, compared from south to north, across more than 60% of the votes, as to whether this will shift the, what they call it, allegiance to the side of Japan, and what he can do to let that happen. Don't forget, he's been concentrating on these areas. He's been insisting that there should be a lot more done in these areas. He's been riding on the Tremantin exit and saying he was treated unfairly. You remember when Tremantin exited, we were in studio here. The people who spoke there, some of them said, yes, I work for the NPP, I am with the NPP, but I'm less likely to participate in anything that will further anybody's chances beyond Tremantin's own. So would it be something that many people there will be complaining to the party about the leadership structure and the systems that they are put in place by voting against the establishment candidate who is expected to sweep votes?
Let's get to that point you're making. And listen, tonight, as we build into tomorrow, this entire context tomorrow is within the context of the resignation of Alan Tremantin. The last time we gathered to talk about NPP voting, Alan Tremantin was in the race.
Yeah.
He is no more. So the first thing you need to do in building up to tomorrow is to look at that Alan factor and who will pick up those votes. What would his exit mean for the outcome? What implications would it have for it? We'll come to that. And then you look at this trend graph here of the NPP, and we won't spend too much time on this, of the NPP over the years and what they've done with their own internal elections when it comes to delegate numbers. And of course, the turning point always, as we've pointed out, is 2007. But after that, the delegate numbers have climbed, primarily because of the 2007 debacle and all the concerns were about, people vote buying, the acrimony and etc. So they've increased the numbers gradually over time and hoping that it will deal with the acrimony, but also make it more difficult for people to vote and put them in a room and influence them, etc., and divide the party. Has this held true since they started this process?
It's actually increased the cost.
Yes.
It has increased the cost because today, and you may have heard, they admit that when they go around, they give is it transport and transportation or whatever they say. Some call it motivation, 100 to 200 Ghana cedis. It's actually increased the cost because in the past, you probably were talking to 10 persons from each constituency. So you meet them, then you discuss your vision with them, and that's the end of it. Today, you're talking to 204,000. So just imagine if you do the calculation, if you had to give everybody...
I'll give you an example. On PMXS, I spoke to one of the delegates and was telling me over the period, the delegates come, they give them between 100 and 200 cities. And in Lejukuku, they had a delegate population of 1,800 people.
Yeah.
So if you do the calculations, then even if you discount it, say, you can't meet everybody. So he meets 1,600 and they give him 200 cities. That was 3,000. That was 304,000 cities there alone.
I met a delegate who told me he was giving 400 Ghana cedis. I'm not going to mention the kind who gave.
People pay more.
Let me give
right?
400
so you are in really
so
ridiculous territory.
Yeah.
But let's narrow down to the big question. The big question that everybody is asking is, okay, where are we coming from? We're coming from the Super Delegates Conference, the Electoral College vote, and this was the outcome of that. As you know, Kennedy Japan came in second place, and he surprised a lot of people with 132 votes, representing 14.30% of the votes that was cast. And then, of course, Bawumia swept this, won this by 68.15%. And indeed, if 68.15% is anything to go by, this wasn't as strong a showing as they had expected in the super delegates elections. They wanted something high of 70s, right? But this is what they got. And that is why you've heard Sami Woku say that this time they're thinking about 80.
Yes.
80% and above, or something very close.
In fact, they are insisting any poll that puts them below 75% should be dismissed.
Exactly. And I'll make a point about this when we go on, why that is so important. And of course, my colleagues will also add their own analysis to this. This you know already, so I'm going to go through this very quickly. Of course, Dr. Free Akoto, the last time they voted, 36 votes. Majority of his votes, only 5, by the way. But still, that was a bigger number of votes he got in Ashanti region. 3.90%. And now you come to Adainimo, who, of course, Winston has already written out. He was on my set 3 days ago.
He's not part.
Saying that he is going to cause an upset. We all know he isn't going to cause an upset. And historically, when we look at his performance in 2014, the last time they went to the polls, he, in the actual primary, lost votes from the Super Delegates Conference.
And the percentage of votes reduced.
Dropped, yes.
And, the thing is that, and if you go to the next slide, you would see that.
Let's do that.
Let's
do that. Now, this is the Alan factor.
Okay. So, let me just make this point. Apart from Akufo-Addo, who gained percentage-wise, the rest dipped percentage-wise. If you look at the 2014 figures, for instance, you realize that apart from Akufo-Addo,
we'll come to that. Come to that. Now, here, this is really the moment where we begin to drill down to what might happen tomorrow. And the place to start is Alan Kyerematen. He's left, but he had a following. And a following in the party, that following still remains. Those who followed him are out, but those delegates who liked him are there. There is a fight for those votes that Alan left behind. And this is it. What are we looking at here, Winston? And we've tracked Alan Kyerematen's performance in internal NPP primaries since 2007. What are we seeing?
So we've tracked that, and I've come to the conclusion that if you had to strike the average, of all the votes he's had over the period, you would get to this number.
That is 9,290. Why is this number important?
It is very important for a simple reason, Evans. So this is the average number that he's gotten. And mind you, this average number also includes a superdelegate result of 2023. What we are saying that if you look at the percentage that he got, now this is the average of it, but if you look at the percentage that he's got over the period, Alan Kyerematen in 2023 gets some 10% of the vote. If you were to translate the 10% of the vote into 10% of the 204,000, you're looking at 20,000 people. 20,000 is enough. And let me make this very clear. If 20,000 is enough to actually shape this election. But the superdelegates number could also be the case that he may be popular than what he had. And so on the ground, his popularity is more than 10%. And that's where you get to the polls where about 32% in the Global Info Analytics say they are undecided or would not disclose. Watch this critically.
And that is very important.
Okay, so watch this. 14 plus 18, 32.3. And this analysis I'm going to make before Raymond comes in. If this is the establishment candidate, second it for me.
And that is Dr. Baumia here.
Now, Dr. Baumia gets 43.5.
That is according to Global Info Analytics.
Global Info Analytics. Ken gets 23.5. Now, if Dr. Baumia is the establishment candidate, and that's not in doubt, when people say we're undecided, and we've seen in a lot of the polls that the Global Info Analytics have conducted, that a lot of the time, the undecided or the non-disclosure votes tend to favor, and we saw it in Asin North election, for instance, a lot of people who are not prepared to disclose went the way of Jesse Quayson. I am asking myself a very simple question. So, will this undecided number, where do they go? Are these the people who belong to Alan Kyerematen? Or, they just don't want to disclose it? Are these the people who say, well, I'm probably an Alan Kyerematen supporter, and so I am waiting to decide where my vote goes? If they are Alan Kyerematen supporters, because Alan is anti-establishment, when I say anti-establishment, before he left, he was fighting the establishment. Kennedy was also fighting the establishment. If that is the case, will they then support? And you've heard again in the last week, commentary or comments coming from Alan Kyerematen that suggest that he's been talking to Kennedy Japan regularly. What signal does that send to you? The signal it sends to you is that this is a man who when he was leaving the NPP, if you remember, he said, stay in the NPP, vote for your parliamentary candidates, and vote for me as president. So if this is the same person who is saying, I talk to Kennedy Japan all the time, I am inferring from what he's telling you that, hold on a minute, if you're to go to the
leaving
polls,
his base.
I'm leaving my base in Kennedy Japan.
Okay, hold on. Who picks up Alan Kyerematen's votes?
Two things will come in here. I think that those who actually voted in the super delegates actually for Kyerematen may more likely be tilting towards the Baumia people. So the likes of former MPs and all of the other people with positions, they are not going to be sticking out and saying that I'm going for Kennedy Japan. But the grassroots, and there's something key I read from the Global Info Analytics one. It struck out which people voted predominantly for Kennedy Japan. And it's the people with a certain level of education, and the people in the southern part of the country. That's also predominantly where Alan Kyerematen's base is supposed to be. So that reasonable extension is that he will get the chunk of those who are disgruntled, who are not happy, seeking to send a signal to the establishment that your candidate can be opposed. And those are people who are less likely to say that, I won't tell you who my vote is supposed to be, for fear of intimidation, for fear that people will come after him, and for fear that even you, the pollster, or the person taking the data, they do not trust you. So we're seeking to get the information from these people. And if you get it true to their heads, what they're saying is that I will complain with my vote. My vote should go to the next person, not the one that everybody is actually heralding, not the one that every government official, every member of parliament is likely to take up. So that's why I separate them. Every single individual who is down the, what they call it, hierarchy when it comes to the NPP structure, be it the people, that's the chunk of the people we are talking about here, right? They are more likely to say, let me throw my weight behind Kennedy Japan if I'm complaining with my vote. Unlike the others at the top, who are truly afraid now about possible victimization, about already showing their face behind Chematin and the fallout from it, now having to show allegiance to not only what they call him, Dr. Bawumia, but also to the party. Because they believe that their future is supposed to be secured that way. It is the reason why you have the likes of, what they call it, Japan, coming out boldly to say they are supported. You have the likes of Kathleen Afeko also coming out. They didn't just hide, they came out to come and say that we support Dr. Bawumia. It's because there's a certain suspicion that they may actually follow and go out. So they need to make it out there. But the chunk of the people along that line, and let's not get it wrong, Alan has always said the bulk of my support, and I was looking forward to that, is the grassroots. People. The same grouping that Global Info Analytics insist will vote for Kennedy Japan largely.
And for me, there are two ways of looking at it. The second one is a more scary proposition. I'll come to that. The first part is the way to look at and judge where the bulk will vote, the votes Alan left behind, where they'll vote for. Is to look at some of the stalwarts who used to support Alan Chaman had done after he had left, right? Because of course they also carry certain constituencies. You mentioned Katina Feku.
Yes.
Sly Tete.
Yeah.
All of them publicly have said, thank you very much. We loved you. But now I'm going.
We are primarily NPP.
I'm coming to that. That's what I'm saying. That the second part is the more scary proposition. I'll come to that. But I'm saying that there's a first part of this where, because of their public pronouncements, and for those delegates who, of course, we haven't left, they'll also take signals. So, Katina Feku, for example, they'll take signals from Sly Tete and they say, well, if they've moved, there is a segment of that population who will follow that and say, okay, if these people were following him and they say they're now supporting Bawumia, I will likely go there. But the second proposition is the most scary one. And that is where the numbers you are looking at when it comes to the undecided is very significant.
Yeah.
And that, for me, the Alan effect is linked very closely to the Kennedy Ejipon factor, right? And for me, I want to go there because I think for me, it's probably the most scary proposition when I started looking at the numbers. And I'll come to if you look at, if you look at the undisclosed, undecided delegates, according to Global Info Analytics, right? And I know Bawumia State, they don't really like Global Info Analytics. They say they okay. But I'm focusing on the subject of undecided, right? Let's even go to the poll that they like, right? Let's go to the poll that they like, which is this poll? This is the poll of the Center for Sustainable African Development Initiatives. They also actually tell you that there is 7.3% undecided, right? That still is significant in this particular race. Now, if you go to the point I was making, and this is a factor that we'll explain very shortly, we'll tell you. But you come to this man here called Kennedy Japan. I believe Kennedy Japan's biggest advantage going into this is what I call the silent force. And the silent force is very important. In fact, very quiet, but very formidable. And you see that in his performance in the NPP headquarters. The NPP headquarters in the Super Delegates Conference. Yeah. And this, by the way, made up of the people who voted here. They're made up of National Council, National Executive Committee. Yes. We are talking about the likes of the president, the vice president, the national executives of the party, former executive officers of the party, who went to cast their ballot at the NPP headquarters. And 32 of them actually went into the booth and voted for him. In fact, he beat Alan Chamanting at the NPP headquarters. Alan Chamanting only managed 25 votes. Now, before that vote, that caliber of NPP stalwart, right? None of us thought they would associate with Kennedy Japan, right? We are talking about that caliber, that elite MPP voter, the
Mindful
delegate.
of his history, mindful of his
They would not
pronouncement.
dare publicly declare their support. But yet, when they entered that booth, they voted for him. My point is, they formed this silent force who aren't capable of publicly declaring support and associating with Kennedy Paul, because obviously he's seen as a pariah. He's seen as an individual whose ethics, morals are questionable.
Yeah.
So you dare not go publicly to say, I support him, because if you do so, you're going to probably be victimized.
Yeah.
First of all, functionally, practically, you're not going to get possible contacts with government. Secondly, your people will look at you iffy.
And be a bit
are you
suspicious
serious?
about, yeah.
I thought you were smarter. You're supporting Alantemanting. Really, you'll be stereotyped. So they are quiet. But when they went into the booth, they gave him the vote. My point is, that silent force, if you go back to the very scary issue of undecided, they possibly are undecided because they don't want you to know that they actually support Kennedy Japan. And so they are silent. They say they are undecided, but actually they know who they're going to, but they won't tell you. They say we really won't disclose to you, but they have a decision to make. And if you look at both polls, we're talking about 14,000. Even if you are looking at the Center for Sustainability Analysis, for 14,000 is a lot of people.
It's a lot, Evans.
Right?
You see,
And that for me is Kennedy Japan's biggest factor going this, that silent force, who they are and who they'll vote for. My position is it's very possible that that group may be voting for him.
I tell you what, Evans, and you see, you've talked about Kennedy Japan, and I've had discussions with a lot of NPP people who were angry, even some of the people who were members of the Alan Chamantin team, who were angry with how Alan Chamantin was conducting his campaign. Because they say the president is so unpopular, and that's fact today.
So go out.
The NPP, in the NPP, Akufo-Addo is the most unpopular person. Let nobody deceive you. Akufo-Addo is very unpopular in the NPP. So go out, and it's actually the reason you've heard even Bawumia himself, at a point in time, trying so hard to distance himself from some of the decisions.
Even if he does not say it publicly.
But you've seen, I mean, if you read in between, you probably would get a sense that this is what he's trying to do. Now, if that is the case, the man who is seen as anti-establishment and Kennedy Japan has been playing. Look, if you check the global info analytics, you would see that his percentage has been increasing over the last few weeks and months. That is because Kennedy Japan is saying a lot of things that people want to hear.
From 12% to 21% to 18%, then to 23%.
3%. What is it? What does that tell you? There are people within the NPP who are still unhappy, who feel that we're MP, but they can't say it because the NPP is bought into a lot of things. And look, to be very honest here, we've said this. I mean, imagine Alan Chamantin saying that, oh, there will be a lot of Northerners here, so we don't need a Northern. He can't say that.
Yeah.
He can't say that.
But Kennedy can't say that.
Kennedy can say that. And you see, you're seeing in Kennedy a Donald Trump who says, I have a silent majority. Nobody wants to be associated with him.
Yeah.
But when they go into the booth,
They
they then say, okay, how about I vote for this person? And for me, look, I'm going to let's go back to the 2014. I'm going to show you something about the Center for Sustainability, whatever. I'm going to show you something about it. I'm going to show you my challenge with that particular with that particular data. So watch this. This is Bawumia with 68 to 80%. Okay, go to 2014.
You mean the
Akufo-Addo one. Let me just show you something.
Oh, that's down the line a bit.
Yes, but I mean, so Akufo-Addo moves from 80%. No, go back. I just want people to just capture that. I mean, Akufo-Addo goes from 80% to some 94%.
Yeah.
Watch the margin.
That is down the line. We'll come
Yes,
to that.
but I'm trying to make a point that you see, when I see the Center for Sustainability and everything, and I compare that to the Global Info Analytics, I am tempted to tilt towards the Global Info Analytics because I see the Center for Sustainability or whatever, trying to replicate what happened in 2014.
Yeah.
Because in that race, Akufo-Addo gets 80% in the super delegates and 94%, I believe.
And then he increases. The only one who increases, and the rest decrease.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing you see in here.
Okay. But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. We are all convinced that Bawumia is winning tomorrow. We are all convinced.
Yes.
Right? However, we say that he's winning, but the margin is going to be the key thing to watch. Right? Because again, you're looking at, as we've analyzed, Kennedy Japan's factor, this silent falls I keep saying, can they possibly garner enough votes to push this into a runoff?
Frankly, and that
Can they?
That's a very, when you say can they, yes, they can. As to whether it is a realistic expectation,
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
So you think that, of course,
but it's an
Abawamia will
election.
win?
The problem with elections is that we are trying to delve into the minds of people, which can change overnight. Today, some people, mindful of circumstances, even though they say they have decided, may change their minds, may have a change of heart, and when they enter into that booth, when they are prevented from, or they are not being asked to produce evidence of their vote, they can do a lot of magic within that space. So you cannot just throw out and say it is impossible for that to happen, even if it looks statistically problematic that it will happen. But as for whether it can happen, it is very likely that every individual in this election, with the exception of the two at the bottom, can be the winner. Why am I saying so?
Can be the winner?
Yes.
I think Kennedy Japan can win tomorrow?
Why am I saying so?
win.
He can. Why am I saying so?
How?
I'm just taking myself into the, what they call it, global info analytics data properly, separating north from south, mindful of the figures in the southern part of the country, and how Dr. Bawumia wins the southern part of the country. If that is changed, looking at the trend, so if the case, as we are seeing now, the rate of growth of Dr. Bawumia's votes, according to the trend provided by Global Info Analytics, in the South, is not as fast as that of what they call it, Kennedy Japan. So the tendency that Kennedy Japan would actually be spiraling and getting more votes in the southern part of the country is still very high. Let's not get it wrong. The chunk of the votes are in the southern part of the country, which is also going to go in his favor anyway. And we have all the other factors we have just discussed equally going in his favor. If that trend continues, he looks to be, and he might not necessarily win the day, but he is very much likely to push it to a point that people will be shocked he getting over 30%. It will be a massive upset.
It's possible he gets over 30%.
It is possible if you are looking at the figures of the trends.
Everything is possible.
Yes.
Of course, in politics it is.
Yes.
But
Everything
is possible.
What is the likelihood that it actually
it's the
happens?
reason, see, I mean, and we've talked about it. In doing this analysis, we have said if there's anything to go by. Because, okay, let me just bring in next point. I mean, and I was telling you earlier today that everybody who knows me, and knows me very well, knows how I vote. But if you walk up to me and you pick a phone and you call me and tell me how are you going to vote, I won't mind you.
Yeah.
Okay? I won't mind you because I don't expect you to ask me how I'm going to vote. So there could be that population that says, I want to disclose my vote. But in a party where you had Chairman Blay in 2014, you spoke to him.
Yeah.
And he said, some party rules are best disobeyed than adhered to. You remember that interview you had with him in 2014? When he was then vice chairman of the NPP, first vice chairman, he said, when he said people were declaring support for Akufo-Addo, he said some rules are better disobeyed than adhered to. So he didn't see anything wrong with people declaring for Akufo-Addo. This is a time where a lot of people have come out to declare for others. And so anybody who's clearly aligned to the system may not have a difficulty saying, this is where I want to vote. But of course, let it not be said that all those who are undecided and not disclosing are going to Kennedy Japan. That will be stretching it a little bit.
Yes, of course. I mean, it can be extreme.
So we cannot say that all of it are going to go to Kennedy Japan. But we're asking the question, are these the votes for Alan Tremantin? Are these the votes also for Kennedy Japan who do not want to disclose? And I would want to draw from the American situation just to make this point. In the build-up to the American elections, for instance, you heard for somebody like Donald Trump consistently attacking Barack Obama. He attacked everybody he was in a contest with until he became president. Now, you had Hillary Clinton finding it very difficult. Of course, she was coming from the same party. The point I'm trying to make, for instance, that even Joe Biden, at a point in time, in 2016, I think 2008, decided not to contest. He did not contest because he knew that the approval ratings of Barack Obama were very low. And he was going to carry his burden. The point I'm trying to make is that.
Let me do an addendum to that. See, we have tried to compare the Trumps of this world to Kennedy Japan. And my theory is that, and there are others who believe in this too, whenever there has been an economic crisis of a sort, a financial crisis, for example, the candidates that spring out in the US and the UK have been very unorthodox candidates.
Yeah,
like examples like Boris Johnson, the examples like Donald Trump. The argument has been that a system in a country protests they get fed up with a certain establishment system that produces that kind of candidate. So anybody outside the realms, unexpected, unassuming, a candidate that they believe is not a politically produced candidate. And if you hear candidate Japan speak today, it is not different from the ideas that Donald Trump started with, attacking his own party, talking about a system suppressing the young people and a new country that's supposed to be spreading in a different direction. If you put it together, there is the grouping of people, and let's not pretend that everybody in the NPP votes according to a certain ethnic line. We cannot conclude that way. There are rational choice people who says, I am convinced Dr. Bawumia has been in charge of this economy for God knows how long. I'm not sure he has any more ideas to share. Kennedy Achapo, on the other side, has been a business person. There are business people today who are insisting on basically talking to other people who are in the party and saying, listen, this guy has shown that he can run a business. He can, at least if for nothing at all, understand the people who are in the business space. Why do you think he shouldn't be? That kind of thinking might not get him to win, but it sways a certain grouping. It's not everybody who's a delegate for I am being controlled by the state.
And importantly, that grouping will not be loud.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to publicly
It's an
identify.
unpopular position to
They don't
take
want
anyway.
to, they don't want to be publicly identifying themselves with
there are
him.
trade organizations, business organizations in this country, who, in the build-up to the 2024 election, have been contemplating fielding a candidate. I'm not going to mention names. They are contemplating fielding a candidate. And look, when they talk about street sense, have you heard Kennedy Japan complain about taxes in this country?
He's done everything.
Yeah. And he uses himself and his business on his
Are
hand.
businesses complaining about taxes in this country?
He has, but of course.
Are you complaining about taxes in this country?
Everybody does.
He is singing your song. And that's why I say that, look, Lawrence Rees, writes and talks about the fact that when it comes to politics, you want to see yourself in a candidate who wants to lead you. And these are and that's why, in a time of crisis, the system would generate a populist person who would lead. He will make mistakes, you probably will get him out eventually.
Yeah.
But at the moment, on the spur of the moment, that person comes in. And that's why I listen to Kennedy Japan. The things he says are things all of us have struggled even to say on air in analysis.
And we need to go for a break. But yes, you've had the analysis. But I go back to the evidence. The evidence is we saw that play out in the Super Delegates Congress when we went to the headquarters of the party. The people that you've been talking about, the people who queued to vote, nobody even imagined that category, that class,
NPP headquarters.
That's my point. That class of NPP voter, that National Council of Elders, National Council, National Executive Committee members, I'm talking about a General Secretary type, the Deputy General Secretary type, the National Chairman type who were queuing to vote. 32 of them went to vote for him.
Exactly.
And I'm saying that for me, I look at that number, and of course, I'm pretty sure that Bawumia camp would have analyzed this also and factored that into their own analysis of what might happen tomorrow. Because whatever it is, and the reason why that again, and the point, just summarizing the points you've made, is important, is the sheer numbers we are seeing emerging as undecided or will not disclose. We've seen it in two polls, Global Info Analytics and the Center for Sustainability Analysis say we have a significant number there. And that number what for me makes Kennedy Japan very, very dangerous. That's what I call the silent force. We're going to take a break. When we return, of course, we're going to be analyzing Dr. Bawumia.
Yeah.
And he is a formidable candidate who will show you what he's done for the party since he stepped in 2008. And why, of course, they'll be selling that to the delegates. It's about winning the elections. Yeah. And he will tell you that I have a track record. He's not done it before.
Follow who no road.
Exactly. And the evidence shows he may have a point. And at your point, he will say, well, what has he done in terms of delivering you votes? I have done so. When we return, it's his turn. We'll analyze him. Stay with us. This is your election headquarters. It is brought to you by Petrosol and a new force. And this is your election headquarters. We are live on Joy 99.7 FM. We are live here on the Joy News channel. This is our build-up into tomorrow. We've been analyzing a lot for you as we help you make sense of what is going to happen tomorrow. We'll be talking a lot about the Allen factor and who is going to pick up the votes. You've heard the analysis. And then, of course, the Kennedy Japan factor also. And this silent force, that group that will not publicly identify with him, but they silently prefer him as a candidate and voted at the party's headquarters for him. 32 of them. Actually, he beat Alan Chamantin there. But listen, Winston, we need to say this. the reason why we call them a silent force is because they don't want to identify with the man. It means the man has a baggage, significant baggage. This is a man who came out to actually ask people to attack journalists. He has a lot in his closet, not even in his closet, because he does it publicly, unashamedly. However, he wants to be the president.
And not just journalists, for the avoidance of doubt, pastors, other business people, serious politicians, and even his most recent comment. It's as if we gave him a blank check as a state to behave in whichever way possible and still get away with it. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
And he's perhaps Ghana's most despicable politician.
Well, perhaps. I think
yes.
in the Fourth Republic,
I cannot find anybody who
you struggle to find somebody else who competes with him on that. Yes.
But that this man has risen through a political party whose history is of a democratic source, the educated elites of this country, whose history is that they have consistently always raised very wonderful candidates of proper educational background, of proper integrity and all of that, and become somebody that tonight we are even thinking may cause an upset in an election.
It is unthinkable.
Phenomenal.
And to think that he actually beat the finest gentleman possible in the NDs, in the NPP.
Evans and
a man who you struggle to find any death on in Alanche.
I don't want to go into this, but I agree with everything you've said. But Raymond, read the document in front of you.
Yeah.
The moment the NPP expanded its electoral register, electoral college, to include polling station executive, ask yourself that simple question: the makeup of the NPP delegates at the polling station level. And so while out there, the NPP looked like the educated party, the moment they expanded the electoral college, that tag at that level was lost. And it's the reason you hear consistently grassroots person, grassroots person, grassroots person. Today, the people down there are not the sort of people you knew in the NPP. And the NPP today, you've seen it, the NPP today is not the NPP of the Daroches, the NPP of the Alajitis, the NPP of the Odoi Sykes. That's not the NPP today. Today in the NPP, and that's why Kennedy Agyapong is very popular in the NPP. Today in the NPP, you've heard people say they unleashed him on an ass. That's the NPP. NPP.
Yeah.
Unleashing Kennedy Agyapong. So in the NPP today, this man here has become very popular because there are a lot of people who support the things he does.
He's actually epitomizing all the challenges that the NPP is currently facing.
Yes.
The NPP is in an identity crisis.
Exactly.
As we currently have it.
Certainly.
In fact, and if you listen to Professor Frimpong Boateng, he raises that in one of his articles. He says, how did we get here? And he said he cannot identify this party that he joined, that he so loved. And really, Kennedy Agyapong is telling you that something really fundamentally is wrong with the NPP. That delegates are preferring him. That they actually voted for him over Alanche. The finest gentleman you will find in any political
Because the
race.
delegates are saying that, and I told you that, you see, this is the point. Watch the NPP from 2010 up to now. Watch the NPP from 2010 up to today. The NPP from 2010 up to today has become, and you've seen a lot of young people who've sprung up within the NPP, and their claim to fame is attacking others.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's not run away from it.
Something that was uncharacteristic of the NPP. In fact, you see the recent UTV incident, for example. This is a party that has gone to court to protect media freedoms. This is a party that had lawyers who had, in times past, been devoting quality time to media freedoms. Indeed, this is a party that expanded the frontiers of media freedoms some time back. Yeah. But to have people within the fold of the same party, willing and able, and even contemplating the possibility of doing the most despicable of all things, including attacking media freedom. In any case, let's also not quibble it. In the last few years, we have seen the media environment deteriorate. Remember, we did a 2019 Defend Media Freedom campaign.
No, but we saw our own colleague, our own Joy News colleague, attacked in 2012.
Yeah, and we have Kennedy Agyapong actually asking people to attack our own colleague.
Exactly.
Erasa Saridonko. And yet this is a man that we're spending time talking about as potentially leading the NPP This is a party of Jan
Becoming
Selby. This is
president
a party
of
of Jan Selby. This is a party of J. Kufuor. This is a party of Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo when he emerged first to contest J. Kufuor and secure 30% of the votes. Formidable candidate. This is and this is the same party that now has an aspiring presidential candidate who publicly asks people to, and nobody has even arrested him yet.
One of the accusations against the NPP is that when people,
inciting violence against people.
When people insisted that the party should use more brutal force, or the UGCC should use more brutal force to actually seek for independence, the idea of the NPP is that let's do more dialogue. So self-government is the shortest possible time. It's a dialogue option. K. Buzia, one of the accusations against him was that when South Africa was in trouble, and the African leaders were saying, let's mobilize to get South Africa for our state, he said, no, dialogue is still the way out. This is a party that has been known to toe this particular line. But to have a candidate who signifies in every way the opposite of dialogue.
Violence.
Yes. Who has a certain clout.
Compromising.
So this is a
That's why there's a fight for the soul of the party.
This is a
and also for identity of the NPP. And I'm making a point. If tomorrow Ken actually gets anything above 25%, close to 30%, I believe the NPP is in trouble going forward in terms of, you say it's a fight over the soul of the party.
Yes.
It is a fight over the soul of the party tomorrow.
But
defining that soul is really dependent on what they do around Kennedy Pond.
Look, post this. We don't have a lot of time today. Post this. I am going to do something for you. We will catalog the people in positions, check their backgrounds.
Yeah.
Check what they did when the NPP was in opposition.
That's true.
Check the people who've been rewarded with positions. And you would understand that today, sometimes it's more important. And if you are in politics just because you want to have a position, sometimes you will toe the line. And in towing the line, the masses tell you, you will be a boshi. I saw boshi. Yeah. And the people go out there and do the very things. I always would use, the Trump example. What things didn't you hear about him? And a lot of things.
The reason why I haven't gone on the Trump bandwagon just yet, because the demographics, the political circumstances are very, very different.
But it's beginning to play out here, because you see, the moment 32
the US.
Watch this.
Now, I get it. But I mean, this is a part of the elitist group in the NDC deciding
and
to vote.
25 vote for Alan Chamanting.
Well, and that's my point. Yeah, that's my point. I mean, against him.
And this is the point.
I wanna.
So hold on. It tells you one simple thing. But also, there's something that this man, so he's just playing on the emotions of the people. He's going out there, the people are unhappy, and he's telling them the things they want to hear. They're unhappy with the president. They feel that they've been neglected by the president. Then he goes there to tell them that it has been neglected.
Except that he's been himself. He's not just telling what he would. This is who he is.
This is him, yeah. But he's taking advantage. But
this is who he is.
If you were at the grassroots, you would say, no, I wouldn't vote for this man. But this is the other point. Let me end on this note. Over the last 1 week, I have gotten calls from people, some of whom have worked in the media and still work in the media.
Yeah.
And the only reason they called me was that, you people do election analysis. Is Ken winning? I want him to win.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not sure he's going to win. And he says, is the way the things he has said, but he would have been a good president too. I said back. And if I mention names to you off air, you will be shocked. These people are the most quiet people, and you would expect that these people would not support Kennedy Japan. But this is the point. Because of how low we have sunk as a country, people think that he is the person to lift us up.
Let's go to Dr. Bawumia. And by the way, Dr. Bawumia can swing this, can he? Can flip this into an advantage for him going into tomorrow, right? Because it's important for him. And if you look at him, his performance among the super delegates the last time was outstanding. Of course, he was expected to win. He won 68%. And we've said already that he should have actually done better than 68%. But that is what he did. He's looking at 80, as we're quoting the Sami Iwuku, who has been saying that that's what he's looking at, which of course is reflected in one of the polls that we've seen. There's nothing here to say than to say he won it, and he won it quite handsomely. However, if you look at Nanado and him, this for me is another key point. And this is Nanado in 2014. This is Bawumia in the super delegates, by the way, in the Special Electoral College in 2023. he does not only have to win tomorrow, he must win with such a handsome margin that by the time the polls close, we are in a position to say, now, this is Bawumia's party. And I'll make a further point to that. You have Ronaldo, who first comes in and has 80. He needs that to exert that absolute control over the party and leave no doubt who is in charge here. For two reasons. One, there are still elements in the NPP who still don't like him. In fact, Alan Chamantin left. Many of those folks are still in there. You know what they say about the enemy within? That group of people can actually hurt you more. If he delivers anything above 80 or 80, very strong, it gives them a message. Now, the party is completely for me. If you mess with me, I am possibly going to let you out, which is what he did in 2007. Have you read the Alan Chamantin resignation letter in 2007? One of the things he said was that his people were being hounded, he were being victimized, were being harassed. Because even after the poll, when he stepped down for him to go, he felt those elements were still there and undermining him. So find a way to get them out of the race, which is why he was complaining, right, at the time. What happened in the final analysis in the 2008 elections? They struggled and limped to defeat in the runoff. He needs, and by the way, in that poll, he only managed 47%, didn't he, at 2007 votes, right? In the primary.
Yes.
He did not come out swinging with a significant margin of victory in that, the Congress in Legon. And so he limped across the line. He doesn't want to limp across the line. He wants to deliver a resounding victory tomorrow. Again, second point, this man is a strong politician. I actually make the point that in the Fourth Republic, in terms of strong presidents, we have General Rawlings, and I'll put him right next to him. You remember the question of the poodle? When the Statesman newspaper, Gabia Soretidako, published this very infamous article. When Rawlings, of course, handed over to Mills, and Mills said, I'm going to consult him. That became a controversial subject.
4 hours a day.
Exactly. Because he had a strong man president who didn't want him to go. He's a strong man also. He needs to deliver a significant victory tomorrow. I'm talking about Alan Chamantin in the primary to show him.
Dr. Bawumia.
As Dr. Bawumia, to show the president that now your time is gone. I now have the full support of the party and the delegates back me strongly. Because he's going to be a lame duck president after this. But the extent to which he keeps that tag, if he senses that this man hasn't got the full backing, and so he will also want to control him, but he doesn't want that. At some point, he needs to create a distance. He needs to create the distance between himself and the president. But can he do that? That signal comes tomorrow if he gets 80 and above. For those two reasons, it is absolutely critical. And now I understand why you see Sami Wuku and co say, yes, Global Info Analytics is putting us ahead, but that number is not good enough. It's not good enough for those two reasons I say. He needs that. He needs to make everybody leave no doubt by the end of tomorrow that he's absolutely, completely in charge of the NPP.
Well, I'll tell you what, Evans. We've had the conversation. You're very likely he's going to win that election. But it still won't be his NPP. And I'll explain.
Even if he wins by, say, 90%.
Because he won't win by 90%.
But that's why he needs to win by that much.
It won't be his.
That's the point I'm making. That's why he needs to win by that much.
Especially when this is 204,000 people in election.
But this is the point. It won't be his NPP. You see, apart from Eduboine, and that was the first time they were going into the race, the only person who is contesting an election for the first time in the NPP's internal election, as in flag bearership race, that has the lead at the first attempt is Dr. Bawumia.
That's true.
And that makes him a formidable candidate.
Yeah.
But that's because the party believes it's about time. And I've said it before.
But is it really him?
No. That's what I said. That's because the party believes it's about time. That's right, because the party believes it's about time. And I've been up. And I'll explain. In the build-up to the Superdelegates Conference, I said something. I said, there are fine gentlemen, but sometimes they emerge at the wrong time. There are people who would have been fantastic presidents, but they emerge at the wrong time. Because somebody overshadows them, and that person becomes the leader of the pack. By end of 2013, any election watcher would have known that this was the man who was going to take over after Akufo-Addo.
No doubt.
I was at the funeral of Dr. Addison. Raymond, I'm sure you would know him, Dr. Addison. Yes, Dr. Addison. And at that funeral grounds, where Philip Addison, they just finished the election petition. When Philip Addison and others came there, I mean, amidst the cheer, when this man showed up.
You mean Dr. Bawumia?
Dr. Bawumia. Everybody cheered him on. At that point in time, you knew the NPP was preparing for this man. However, a few things have happened after that. You've talked about Alan Tremantin leaving the NPP and leaving his people behind.
Yeah.
He departs from the party and says, don't resign. Stay there, vote for me, and vote for your parliamentary candidates. Think about it properly. Because we're focusing on Bawumia, I'm not going to go there. I'll leave that. Nana Akufo-Addo, for him, he has checked out already. The president says the next leader, NPP leader, will transform the economy. And that, for me, is how the president thinks. I know there are many who disagree, but that's how he thinks. So, as for Akufo-Addo, I'll tell you one thing. He is not going to be involved in the country's politics once he leaves office. Mark my word, he will not.
But I bet he will want to have a say in what he does.
He wants somebody who can
Continue his legacy.
continue his legacy and who will be there for him. I don't want to say protect him, but that's I mean, the main.
Because that's also part of your.
That's the most important. Somebody who can protect him after he leaves power. And so he would want to see him win, and someone who will give him his peace of mind once he leaves office. He doesn't want to wake up every morning and saying, Akufo-Addo has done this, Akufo-Addo has done that. When he's relaxing after the end of his presidency, then he keeps hearing his name being mentioned for the wrong reason. And so for him, he's not going to be like that person, as in Jerry John Rawlings, who expected at times to do what he expected. But this is the point. Because of, one, Kennedy Ejapong, and you've seen it, Alan Tremantin's departure, whatever happens, there still will be a lot of people. And this is the thing. Today,
Briefly, because I need to take a break.
today there are people within the NPP who are saying that if he goes and he doesn't win in 2024 and he loses miserably, they won't take him for 2028. Even some of the people who support him. So it's like,
Dr. Bawumia.
yes.
But they will be in the significant minority. Because even if he doesn't win,
you see,
people will contest him.
and you see,
The tradition says
And-
they'll bring him back and
if,
becomes the most dominant person.
if he doesn't win, NPP will no longer have any incumbency advantage. Political parties without incumbency advantage. It's a different terrain.
I tell you
altogether.
Yeah, it's everybody's game.
Yes.
I know one of those who wants to be running mate, who's lacing his boots. If he doesn't win in 2024,
Oh, they'll contest him, of course. As for that, that's what he's saying.
contest in 2028.
In opposition,
Yes.
it's free for
Everybody's
all.
free for all.
It's free for all. And I'm saying it comes back to my point. That is why tomorrow he needs to send that message. Leave everybody with no doubt that I am the boss. And the delegates can do that for him. He needs that. He needs that tomorrow for those two reasons I've cited. I'm going to take a break. When we return, we're going to be joined by the Deputy General Secretary of the NPP. We are planning for tomorrow. And as you see here, Dr. Bawumia has a lot going for him. Has a lot going for him in the north, right? Because when it comes down to it, it is about winning.
Exactly.
It's about votes.
After all,
It's about votes. And he's going to tell them, put this graph up. Tell us what's happening here. Let's wrap this up.
quickly. I mean, Evans, you've seen the performance of the NPP.
And there's the northern region.
And you've seen ever since Bawumia came in, eventually by 2020.
climbing.
He's been climbing.
No,
You've seen
I'm
everything.
going to want to go back for it.
No, go back.
Just look at where they were. Look at, this is the NDC. Let me circle that for you. This is the NDC here
In green.
in 1996. MPP was down here, lowly, 39%.
Yeah, by 2020, they had 46%.
That's how significantly he's been in there.
He's been in there.
So this is the point. This is the point. Let me isolate this. We're saying he came in 2008.
And 8.
At that point, they were at 38%
8%.
to NDC's 58%.
8%. Then he increases it by 0.7. He increases it again by almost 3. Then he increases by 5 and takes it to 46%. And this is why it's even most important. Because now he's no longer going to be vice presidential candidate. If you vote for him, he's going to be the presidential candidate. And if you fell for the NDC propaganda at the time, that the NPP is an Akan party,
He's proving you wrong. Now he's the man there.
He's the man there.
And I showed you the arrow. Whilst Bawumia was climbing, his contribution to the race in the north, that's where he came from. And there's a reason why Nanado appointed him was that he wanted that, and he delivered.
Let's do this arrow well like this. Bring it like this.
Okay,
let's show the decline in the NDC's vote. So show the decline in NDC's vote. So you can see the decline. Yes, you can see the decline in the NDC's votes.
While Bawumia climbed.
Yes, and that's the climb. And here's the decline.
Yeah. And that is his factor. But there's nowhere you see this more than his own home region. And we keep making this point when we say, let's repeat this. Nobody wins an election without a significant performance from either your stronghold or your key base.
Yeah.
And I keep making this point. If you want to see if a party is losing an election, go to their stronghold and see what's happening there. If you want to see if an individual parliamentary candidate, go to his small constituency in his bigger constituency and see what's happening there. Dynamo is a key example. In his own 1 point, can't win it. Of course, he's going to struggle. That is his base. Again, Alan Chamantin is another example. In his own constituency in the Ashanti region, I'm talking about Ashanti region general as a one constituency, he has struggled. In fact, Alan Kopana Japan beat him there, didn't he? So that tells you he's out of the race.
No, in the super delegates?
In the super delegates.
He placed second.
Yes. That's my point. I mean, Bawumia beat him there with a wide margin. So go there. But look at what Bawumia has done.
Again.
This is his home region.
And so you see,
and this is the gap that is fascinating, right? 75%.
So while you may argue
in 992 to 12%, yes.
While you may argue that in the northern region it could be other factors, you cannot argue same in the northeast region.
Yeah.
Because this is his home region.
This is his home region.
And you give credit to him in his home region that he was able to flip it for the MP2. You can argue, I mean, with that of the northern region. But when it comes to the northeast region, for instance, from 35% to 51%, that is significant.
And this, for me, is a story that he'll be telling the delegates. Yeah. Because when it comes down to it, they simply want to win elections, right? And they're going to tell them, when I stepped in 2008, we were at 35% to 53%. By the time I come to the last elections, we've actually, first of all, almost tied with the NDC in 2016, which is what you see here, right? And then the next election, he wins it for the NPP. That is a message that is strong. And I believe that's a message that he has, that's his advantage he has over Kennedy Japan. And I'll be speaking to the delegates. They say, we want somebody who will win for us next year.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're going to look at this and say, if he's doing this in his constituency, in his home region, what can he do in the national elections? But of course, there are dynamics that are different in national elections. Okay, so we know that.
And as to the exact contribution of all of these votes to the national point. Because that's important.
Is, by the way, if you
there was a point in the Republic of Ghana whereby winning just the Eastern and the Ashanti regions alone, the NPP almost won the national elections.
Yeah.
So that's key.
And I checked this, it's about 13% of the votes in those 5 regions in the north. So it's not that much. Yeah. But if you're winning in your of course, Volta region has been delivering quite significant margins for the NDC. But in terms of the national picture, it's not a strong area in terms of the share.
And you know the funny part we always
But it's important to get a win.
The last election, right, the specific number of votes in the Volta region gave the NDC was lower than the number of votes the NDC got to the Ashanti region.
Yeah.
So substantially.
Yeah.
Because for presidential elections, no matter where you are across the country, the regions may not matter. It's when you pull the numbers together and the impact it makes on the larger picture.
Yeah.
That's really what counts at the end of the day.
And bottom line is who delivers you the votes next year. And this is the message I believe he'll be delivering to the delegates. When we return from this quick break, the Deputy General Secretary will join us for a conversation as we look ahead to tomorrow. Last time when he joined us, we asked a very controversial question. He didn't even want to tell us. I hope that tonight he'll give us a few insights.
He will be undecided. He will break his
Oh, he's one of the undecided.
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Stay with me. Haruna Mahama is our guest next. And thank you for staying with us here on your election headquarters. We are live on Joy 99.7 FM. We are live here on the Joy News channel, and it is brought to you by Petrosol. It's also brought to you by the New Force. Of course, my name is Evan Spence. I've been doing this with Raymond Aqua and Winston Alma. Guess who is joining us right now? He is the Deputy General Secretary of the NPP, Haruna Mahama. Mohammed. Yes. Haruna, tell me, you're voting tomorrow, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay. What are you voting for?
I'll be voting at the headquarters of the party.
I didn't ask you where you're voting. Who are you voting for?
For who I vote for, I draw my inspiration from the party's constitution, which says that the voting is a secret ballot.
Are you undecided or not disclosed?
I don't think we are running a poll here. If you are running a poll, you'll be able to identify who is undecided. But in this case, we are interrogating the facts. And what I have to say is that the vote is secret ballot.
Okay. Is the party ready for tomorrow?
Very ready.
Okay.
Very
What makes you
ready.
ready? Logistics, everything gone already? Etc.
Everything is set. The Presidential Elections Committee that was set by National Council took hold of the performance and the arrangement of the elections right from the 26th August elections, where we had the elections successfully. And we are moving on to tomorrow, which is very historic. And all engagements, all preparations, all arrangements with regards to meeting of the people who will be going to the various regions, with regards to aspirants, and also the Electoral Commission and the Ghana Police Service. All arrangement has been made, registers have been dispatched, all materials that require the attention of the Electoral Commission have been made available, and security apparatus and all things that should be put in place.
Has been done. I need to ask you, yesterday...
All the 277 polling centers have been prepared, waiting for service.
Yesterday, the General Secretary addressed a press conference. One of the things he says is there'll be no campaigning around the polling stations. You cannot even show up there in a T-shirt that identifies you with one of the political, one of the contestants, one of the aspirants. You go to the party headquarters today, and we're there at the start of the show at 9 p.m., and you still have the walls, because it's a voting center of the party headquarters, awash with posters of the aspirants. That is clear violation of what the General Secretary read out yesterday. Because people who will be going to the booth to vote tomorrow will obviously encounter these.
Verily, if you go to the party headquarters today, you will see a very different thing altogether. The General Secretary had issued that statement yesterday, and I think that all posters around the voting center, more especially, you know, when you go into the headquarters, in the inner parameters of the headquarters, no posters are allowed into the headquarters.
But you have posters on the walls.
Yes.
Almost at the gate, entering into it.
All those ones has been taken care of.
No, well, at what time? Because we went there at 8 p.m. tonight, and they were still there. 8 p.m.
I left
which
there.
Is less than 2 hours ago.
I left there.
It was live.
8:45. I left there 8:45 to the studio.
And all posters have been removed.
There are no posters at the headquarters.
On the wall, right as you enter.
Yes, please.
When was it removed?
I left there 8:45.
So by 8, because we were there. In fact, when we speaking to our veggie who was live there, it was around 8:20 thereabout. And he was live. You could see the posters. They pan, and you see the walls draped.
There are other walls aside the wall of the headquarters. So on the wall of the headquarters, all posters has been removed.
Okay. And the sanction tomorrow is if anybody comes there with a T-shirt that identifies them, what exact sanctions?
The security services have been asked to take charge of those matters. People who come in violating the orders of the party in terms of the guidelines that have been issued will be taken care of by the security agencies.
Let me ask you, I'm pretty sure you've been listening to our conversation and analysis that we've been doing about the party, the candidates, the history, etc. Anything that caught your fancy?
Yes, I saw the analysis. You have been making a very good analysis of what goes into the elections, and you try to look at the various candidates, what they will bring on board. We will look at entirety of this data after tomorrow's election, and that is why we want to adore the next flag bearer of our party at the Ohinijan Sports Stadium. We would also be needing the data that you are using, because this is very impactful and very educative enough for us to use it to analyze based on the base of the party's performance from 1992 to date. And I think that is very good data that we need to work with.
We've said that this tomorrow is a fight for the soul of the party. Do you agree?
Tomorrow is a decision for the party to be able to achieve the mantra of breaking the 8. And I don't agree that we are fighting for the soul of the party, because nobody's keeping the soul of the party. It's for us to be able to elect a leader that will win the election for us. But for the soul of the New Patriotic Party is very intact. I've also heard you talking about Kennedy, where you mentioned that we are unleashing Kennedy on us, and we are very happy. And I think that the party is not a party that pushes Ken to do what he does. He's an individual, he's an adult, he does things based on his own consumption, not the New Patriotic Party. I also disagree with the fact that the New Patriotic Party is fighting from identity crisis. We have not changed any form as a party. We are a conservative party. We are a liberal party. And we have stayed on to that. We have not changed form. Our identity is clear. The red, blue, white. It's clear.
Except that that's not exactly what we refer to. That's what we're referring when we say you have an identity crisis. We are talking about your, first of all, ideological leanings are clear, right?
Clear,
that is no doubt about. We are talking about the defining principles, the values that you have actually lived by for so long, from the Dankwa Buzia days till now. Those values, as you just mentioned, in the likes of Kennedy Dupont, the things you've been saying, and the values that was used to form this great party of yours. Those are not the values that the NPP represents. And yet you see an individual who's become very, very popular in a party that doesn't espouse those values. That's what we're saying. That is an identity crisis. There's nothing more important about an organization's identity than the values that we've come accustomed to.
Evans, you see, the New Party, every political party, even religion, if you don't stand on the values that establishes you, you would not be able to identify yourself very clearly. But I want to state that the values that establishes the New Patriotic Party, one is competition. And competition is something we allow. In this instance, we have 10 people competing. Streamlined down to 5, one decides to resign and form a movement. One of the values that we also set on is the rule of law. We have allowed everybody, in this election, we have allowed presidential candidates to set standard and set rules for the elections. One of the values that the New Patriotic Party was established on in believing in religion, we believe in what we call the property-owning democracy. So all these values have not run away from the New Patriotic Party, and we still stick to that. Maybe you would say that we have given more liberties to people. People more express over and above what they should be. But the New Patriotic Party will definitely crack the whip at certain point in time when we see that things are getting out of hand. After these particular elections, I bet you the New Patriotic Party will crack the whip. We would not allow any individual to bring down this party. This party is more than individuals. And after electing a flag bearer, if you come after that flag bearer, we will come after you.
Raymond?
It's not interesting. The very comment of Opayansa, right? You heard him.
Yes, I heard him.
You heard the entirety of his commentary. Commentary about unleashing of a decision to unleash being done by the party officially. You say that the party never did anything like that. Are you contradicting Fred Opayansa?
Frederick Opariansa
Yes.
is a former member of parliament.
Yes.
He speaks as Frederick Opariansa. He makes his own opinion, and his opinion does not represent the mouthpiece of the party.
Okay. So that's what you're saying.
And I sit here as Deputy General Secretary of the party. And the party has never.
But in all fairness, you are a recent Deputy General Secretary.
I was a Deputy National Communications Director.
Yes, but I'm talking
the
about
past 4
something
years
that happened. The very incident we are talking about, and it was to do with Anas, right? This happened not in a recent engagement.
Yeah.
So mindful of his pedigree in the party previously, and he's not only been MP, he's also been within the ranks of the party.
And at that time, I was one of the spokespersons of the party.
So even at that time, there was no decision to do that.
And the party too did not also sanction that he should be unleashed.
You're saying he lied to everybody in this republic when he said that was the decision?
I have not heard him say that was the decision of the party. If he says so, then he has to prove that to you. The party, as I sit here, never, because I was a deputy general secretary at that time, a deputy national communications director of the party at that time under John Boydu. And the party never sanctioned Ken or met or decided by any organ of the party to ask Ken to unleash anything on the media or to us, because we enjoy media freedom. We are people, we protect the media more than any other political party in this country.
And I need to ask you this. I go back to your constitution, Article 13(7),
okay,
that lays out the criteria for individuals who want to lead your party as presidential candidates. It says no member shall be entitled to nomination as a party's presidential candidate unless he or she, B, is of good character, good conscience. Would you put Kennedy Dupont in the bracket of people who is of good character?
The party set up a presidential elections committee that was headed by Right Honorable, Right Reverend Professor Aaron Michael Quay. All the informations that were needed, vetting of presidential candidates, with respect to this particular criteria, he met the criteria set at that point in time.
Although he's publicly incited people to violence.
You may say so.
No, I think it's there out there. He's not on radio. In fact, he actually asked people to attack my own colleague, Rasta Saridonko.
I have. If he has done that, it's very unfortunate. But
you are aware of this.
If he has done that, that is very unfortunate.
You are aware of the Swahili
is
connection too.
Yes.
I mean, all of these things are known to
These
you.
are matters that are under investigation.
For a party that went into court on the NPP versus the, what they call the GBC matter, for the party that has been known over the years to protect media freedoms, in fact, for the party that removed the criminal and seditious libel laws, I mean, is it not something that detracts from your very ideals? That if you are selecting 10 of your most important men who are potential presidents of this republic, would anybody who was actually acted in such a form or nature, or even represented that kind of ideal, should the person rise up to that level?
Qualifying.
Because we live in a democracy,
yes,
people have the right to contest, but the delegates has the responsibility to make a choice.
I know, but before you bring him before the delegates, you have to vet him.
Yeah,
but to make a decision whether he is of good character.
And adverted, probably these questions might have been put before him. But however, we all agree that these matters, or some of these matters, are before the law courts, and investigations are ongoing. He goes to court on the Anas matter, we know, and on the matter of Erasmus, the party came out and condemned such attitudes.
Yeah, but yes, exactly. You condemned it, and you still passed him as being of good character.
We did not pass him because to you declaring and openly condemning him. How can a man whose conduct has been condemned openly, not even reprimanded privately, by the party, how can he then rise to be one of the people who's more likely in this election, who's a front runner in the race to be leading the party? I mean, you think about it for a second. Is this something that Dankwa would do? Is this like Buzia? Is this the Aaron Polsa kind of person? Is this the political party of the very individuals that have represented a certain grouping in the Republic of Ghana?
These questions will be answered tomorrow by the
delegates. By the way, let's make your life a bit easier for you and ask the question. So for the delegates out there who will be voting, right, and you have an opportunity to speak to them directly. You're the Deputy General Secretary across the country. We saw the violence that, of course, it was isolated by
pockets.
Yeah, pockets. I said I was going to mention it was isolated by the sole one that your party didn't endorse and had condemned. What do you say to them? You had just over 900 people the last time. You have 203,000 people. This is an opportunity. Talk to them.
Tomorrow, the New Patriotic Party goes to polls to elect the new flag bearer for the party. I call on rank and file of the party to know that tomorrow is a contest of ideas. We are not going to war. We are going for a competition, and after that competition, there comes cooperation. Let's not go there to insult or name each other. Let's go out there knowing very well that we will meet each other after this particular contest. let us be very careful and know that the whole world is watching us. Let us set that pace that the new patriotic party will remain the beacon of democracy in this country. And I think that after tomorrow's election, there's not going to be a loser. The NPP is going to be the winner.
And that there is the Deputy General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party, Haruna Mohammed. Thank you very much. Where are you going to be tomorrow morning?
Tomorrow morning I'll be at the headquarters.
Okay.
But
All
after
day?
here I'm going to the stadium to check the arrangements
preparations, okay.
against 4 p.m.
Okay, great. Is it going to be a rally form or just announce the person gives his acceptance speech and then we all depart?
Because this particular extraordinary delegates conference is made in the form of the national elections perspective, for us to be able to do addresses, that will be done at that particular forum, where His Excellency the President will be there, the national chairman will have an address, the General Secretary will also have something to say, the Conservative Party in the UK will be there to have their speech presented to the rank and file of the party, and the new flag bearer will deliver his speech, where he will be outdoored, and for us to kickstart the road to win our 3rd term in office for the 1st term.
Okay, thank you very much. And we're going to be there bringing you the very latest, most comprehensive coverage of the NPP presidential primary tomorrow morning. We start at 7, and so we'll return. Myself, Winston, and Raymond will be here bringing you the very live coverage of everything. You won't miss a thing because you're everywhere across the country, bringing you the very latest breaking news, the most comprehensive. And remember that the election headquarters is brought to you by Petrosol and the New Force. Pretty sure you've seen the billboards around. You're wondering what that is. It will be unveiled pretty soon. Raymond, we're counting down to tomorrow.
Certainly, and we'll be bringing you the very best from tomorrow.
Yeah, you want to stay with us. Winston Amma will join me in the morning. Oh, let me remind you, you're going to be joined by the former national chairman of the NPP. He is Peter McMenu. You're going to be joined also tomorrow by Samuel Asamoah Boateng,
yes,
right? Stephen Asamoah Boateng will also join us. He is a chieftaincy minister. He himself has run before recently. He wanted to be the national chairman of the party.
Yeah.
He will be here. And of course, the director of research at the presidency,
Isaac Owusu-Mensah.
he will also be here. We'll be joined by the director of elections for the party, Evans Nemaku, will be here in the morning. You see their pictures popping up on your screen. This is where you want to be. We decided to do something a bit different. Let's talk to the people within the party themselves.
That's true.
So we can get a bit more insider sense of what is going to happen and what will indeed happen. And then once it happens, they will tell us why it happened. So you don't want to miss it. All here on your election headquarters.